Budgeting finances and sticking to your budget can actually make you live comfortably without spending too much. You might be surprised that you won't actually need a six-figure income in order to get that kind of life. Living frugally would only make you have spare money for investments and retirements. But of course, if you are considering living this kind of lifestyle, you need to expect a simple life. But an advantage of a simple life is it becomes a less stressful life to live. If you want to live simply and save a lot of money, this video will be helpful in giving you tips to achieve your financial goals. Hi, welcome back to Grayson Finance. In today's video, I'm gonna be talking about how to survive on a low income. Tip number 1. Live below your means. This is something that you probably heard all of the time, but it's actually very accurate. Even rich people tend to live below their means. It is a requirement if you really aspire to become richer in the future. By living below your means, you are able to save up some extra money and won't need to acquire debts just to afford more things. You will be able to pay off all your monthly and annual bills as well as invest at least 15% of that income while still having some money left to save. The extra money left can be used in a variety of ways. Either as an addition to your investment, repairing something that needs repairs, as well as buying an item that you've always wanted. With living below your means, you are left extra money to spend on unexpected expenses as well. Tip number 2. Do your research before buying. Whenever we purchase something light or heavy, we tend to skip doing our research. Research is necessary, especially when you're about to make a big purchase like a car or a house. Without research, you are most likely to make bad decisions that will affect your financial standing. Before you make any purchase, make sure to also think about factors that will affect your expenses before and after your purchase. For example, if you want to buy a car, you need to take into consideration the fuel costs as well as some maintenance and repair costs. In order to not have any regrets about your decision of purchasing something in the future, make sure to do your research first. Tip number 3. Keep your bills low. This tip may be the most obvious one out of all that will be discussed in this video, but at the same time, we can't deny that it is the most helpful. It's very easy to accumulate extremely expensive monthly expenses. Sometimes, by not tracking your expenses, you end up with a mountain of bills that you can't even afford. In order for you to keep your bills as low as possible, you need to discipline yourself. Probably the most common but effective way to keep your bills low is by making a budget and sticking to that budget. While budgeting sounds negative to a lot of people because they know it's a tedious task to do, that may not always be the case. You won't need any grand budgeting if you're starting out. You can start by listing down all your monthly expenses and subtracting the total from your income. With that simple calculation, you will be able to know just how much you spend on your expenses. With budgeting, you also need to establish a savings rate that you will need to get from your monthly income. After establishing a rate, start reducing your bills on expenses that you can reduce. Tip number 4. Plan with extra money. Every once in a while, you might get lucky on getting extra money in the form of a bonus in your paycheck, or you're finally getting your overtime pay. In order to make sure that you still manage your money properly, even with extra money in your paycheck, you need to make a plan for it. You can do all sorts of useful things for that extra money, be it to pay for your debt, save it as an emergency fund, or put it towards investments. Instead of spending that money on some unnecessary purchase, make sure to plan to spend it on useful and necessary expenses. This will only benefit you in the future constantly. Tip number 5. Maintain your belongings. Making preventative maintenance is much more important than you think, and it's most often just overlooked. More often than not taking any preventative maintenance will make you spend more money in the long run. It's the same as doctors advising you to eat healthy in order to have good health for a long time. Always remember that when a system is well maintained, it tends to last longer than when it was neglected. Tip number 6. Be extra careful when you're shopping or spend money on entertainment. When you don't prepare a shopping list for your shopping, you end up buying more things than necessary. Not preparing a shopping list all the time will only make a bad spending habit. Since your goal is to live frugally, you won't actually want this to happen to you. One great tip to avoid spending on something that you might regret afterward is to think and wait for at least 24 hours before you make any purchase. This will give you time to stop at any impulsive decision. We tend to get carried away whenever we spend money on entertainment. While it's also important to add entertainment to your budget, you shouldn't spend it excessively. You won't need to go to a concert a few times every week or go to a sporting event all the time when it happens. Doing so would only make you spend more than you should have. While shopping and entertainment should always be included in your budget, costs can be reduced for each part. Number 7. Make spending a priority. Considering you want to live a frugal life, spending should always become your priority. First of all your expenses should be funded. Expenses such as food, housing, and clothing fall into this category. After taking care of the necessary expenses, now is the time to spend on things you want to spend your money on that aren't necessarily a necessity. Make a list of what you want to buy and organize them in a way that the most urgent or important purchases go first. If you don't determine which purchase you should prioritize over others, you will tend to purchase other things that you don't actually like that much. Number 8. Spend your money on things that hold value for you. Living on a low-income budget doesn't necessarily mean that you're unable to spend on some things that are important to you. If you enjoy something such as eating out every now and then or taking a road trip, you can still add that to your budget without spending so much money on it. If you strictly spend your money on necessities, you are bound to live a miserable life without entertainment or without spending on things that make you happy. There are ways to live on a low income, but one attitude that needs to be learned is compromising. It's always helpful to learn how to compromise, not just in finance, but in real life as well. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you found this video helpful. Make sure to click like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell to keep you posted on new helpful videos like this one.